Hey, Hunger Downcast listeners, this is Varg here. I'm sitting in the Mid-City home of Mr. James Karst. Y'all may know him from many other things. What's your Twitter handle there, James?
I think it's just at James Karst, Karst.
You may know him as Hacksaw James Karst. What were some others?
Oh, man. I think I was the real James Karst for a while.
Diamond James Karst, Ravishing James Karst.
Yeah.
He's been on there a while. We're here tonight to talk to him about a Louis Armstrong project that he's working on that mostly focuses on, if I'm correct, his early life here in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's correct. I sort of specialize in Louis Armstrong's childhood here in New Orleans because he spent the first 21 years of his life in New Orleans before he became a recording star. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did most people know he occupied his time here? Some say juvenile delinquent, but on the streets, a bit of a rough and tumble upbringing. That's correct?
Yeah, well, he grew up during a particularly dark period during Jim Crow. I mean, all of Jim Crow, in my opinion, is a very dark period in our history, but it was especially bad when Louis Armstrong was born. And in his early life. And he also grew up without a father in his life very much, and sort of grew up on the streets and was very poor in what was the city's poorest neighborhood now, roughly where City Hall is now located. And he had a difficult life in New Orleans as a kid, I would say. I think that the narrative about him being a juvenile delinquent is a little bit off, in my opinion. I feel like he was more a victim of the conditions where he was growing up, and he was really just sort of a normal kid who happened to be a precocious musician. Like, you can tell, looking at stuff from him when he was a kid, that he was a rock star from a very young age. So I think it was sort of his destiny to become what he ultimately did.
And there's a dubious report about a firing of a gun in the air. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it was his father's pistol, a .38, and I think it was blanks that he fired into the air on New Year's Eve in 1912.
Some things never change.
Yeah, this was a very common thing at the time, and of course still is in New Orleans. Certainly doesn't make one a hardened criminal if one has done that. Not that you should.
Definitely use blanks if you can.
Yes, exactly. He also grew up adjacent to what was then Chinatown in New Orleans, where they sold a lot of fireworks and firecrackers, and really not very far off Canal Street, where a lot of people gathered. So it was New Year's Eve. They wanted to have some fun, and they did. And he got arrested. He got sent to what was known as the Colored Waifs Home, which is a reformatory. Sort of where Canal Boulevard starts, near Delgado. This was at least his second visit there, and while he was there, he soon became a member of the band there. There was a band that would march in parades. They would play at parties at the lakefront. They played in at least one theater production, I discovered a couple of years ago. And after he got out, he kind of found a bunch of different jobs that weren't really him. He delivered coal to the brothels of Storyville. He worked on the wharfs for a bit. He worked at a dairy, which was backbreaking work. He worked as a newsboy, delivering, or rather selling newspapers in downtown New Orleans, and eventually started playing music in some of the saloons and the dive bars that existed at that time. A lot of them close to, like I said, where City Hall is now, some of them on the other side of Canal Street, on sort of the edges of Storyville. After that, he began playing on riverboats that used to go way upriver to other states, and they were, it was fantastic. Early jazz was very much dance music, so people would buy tickets to go on these excursion boats, and the boat would just kind of tool around for a couple hours while the band played, and people would drink and they would dance to the music. And so he did that for a few years, and in 1922, the story goes, he played at a funeral on the West Bank for the father of a friend of his who had died during a heat wave. I actually found the death certificate on that case, but he played at the funeral, and as they came back to the funeral home, he supposedly got a telegram from his mentor, King Oliver, who was in Chicago. And King Oliver said, "Hey, man, you got to come to Chicago. There's a lot of work here. You can be in my band." And Louis's mom made him a trout sandwich. He wrapped it up, and he took the train to Chicago. And, he played second fiddle there for a little bit, but eventually started recording by himself and soon became a rock star, really, of his time.
And then thus also began a bit of an estranged relationship with New Orleans and the South. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people saying, well, Louis left New Orleans and sort of suggesting he sort of betrayed it. But of course, Louis, as you know, is a black man, so there are also some very practical considerations for him. He, for instance, because of Jim Crow laws, could not play with a racially integrated band, which is what he had eventually. And so, he couldn't play in New Orleans with a racially integrated band. So why would he stay here if he couldn't play with the band that he wanted to play with? So that's one way of looking at it, I think. Also, just as a black man in New Orleans in the early 20s or the 30s or the 40s or on and on, why would you want to live in New Orleans? He even when he came back here and was the king of Zulu, he had to stay at a segregated hotel. So he's like the toast of the town, but he's still a second-rate citizen. And I think that those are all considerations for him probably. But I think he also loved New Orleans. He always sort of considered it his home, even when he didn't live here. And he made many, many visits back here to visit friends and family. The Waif's home. He would come back and visit the boys there and give them musical instruments and record players and stuff like that. So yeah, it's complicated.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of this has been published or talked about in other mediums. If I know about it, then it must be out there. What sort of things are that you can talk about, uncover in your latest research?
Yeah, well, I have discovered a few years ago, let me backtrack, I discovered that he had been arrested when he was 9 years old as a dangerous and suspicious character in downtown New Orleans, and this was an episode that had been lost to history. Nobody knew that it had happened until I discovered it. Since then, actually, just in the past couple of weeks, I discovered there may be another arrest that occurred when he is even younger. And so I am trying to confirm that. And I also found several years ago what many jazz, I shouldn't say many, but some well-placed jazz historians think is one of the earliest known photographs of Armstrong, taken in 1913 on Christmas Day at an event where we know his band played and where he played. I have also found very recently some new images of him around that same time that are, to me, just as mind-boggling. They're really fantastic. And so, it's a struggle to confirm whether a century-old image is a person at a very young age. I think I told someone recently that I don't know that I would recognize a picture of my father when he's a teenager if someone showed it to me. So, there is some difficulty involved in identifying him, and I'm working on that.
What goes into everybody? I know with Robert Johnson, there was only a couple photos of him, and people have gotten together and agreed that it was him. What sort of vetting has to go on before everybody can agree, hey, this was him?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I guess I'll find out. Sometimes you get into a situation where, with the photo I found already of him at this event where his band played in 1913, I know he was there. The child who is pictured is dressed like someone who was there to perform rather than as a recipient of Christmas gifts. It was a Christmas gift giveaway for poor children. And this child is wearing a shirt and tie and appears to be holding something with a shape similar to a cornet in his hand. It's taken from an old newspaper, so it's a little bit hard to tell what it is exactly. But then the kid next to him also looks a lot like Kid Rene, who was another early jazz figure who was in the band and played with them that day as well. So, it's strong, what I consider strong circumstantial evidence that it is him. And then I have some jazz historians who are friends of mine who have looked at it and say, yeah, we think it's him too. I've done some other things, like had a friend who is more talented visually than I am, who compared the distance between the eyes and the width of the nose and the distance from the eyes to the mouth and stuff like that. And so, I don't know.
It'd sure make it a lot easier if everyone had HD cameras and whatnot. It's almost like a Bigfoot type situation where you have to make out, like, was this a cornet, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull that up and show it to you. Another interesting thing about that is...
These are on your Twitter feed, so we can send people there?
Absolutely, yeah, they can find them there.
At James Karst, if you guys want to check out that photo. Maybe we'll put it in the show notes, I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see if I can dig this up. But forgot what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought.
Cornet, the image...
Oh yeah, well you can also see. I mentioned the kid on the left looks like it's Kid Rene to me. He has what looks like a clarinet in front of him, and I know that Kid Rene played clarinet around this period. So, like I said, there are some clues that I've added up, and maybe it's him, maybe not.
So Armstrong's not a common New Orleans name, so that helps you out a little bit. But there were two other Louis Armstrongs who are kind of jacking up your research a little bit.
Yeah, that's one of my problems investigating this this arrest that I've discovered, this new possible arrest. It's an arrest of a person named Louis Armstrong, but like you said, there's two other Louis Armstrongs living in New Orleans at the time, and so how do you tell?
It's a good chance if he's already in the system, he might stay in the system.
Yeah.
But history being the social science that it is, you could choose to say it is or choose to say it isn't, I suppose.
As someone who writes about it, it's much better for me to be able to say, yeah, this is definitely him. So, I'm working on various avenues of trying to confirm it. And we'll see how it goes. I'm always optimistic about stuff like this, and so I think that I will be able to do it on the arrest and on the new images that I have discovered. And, we'll go from there.
Anything else that you want to add that we may have forgotten?
I hope you're going to lead into this show with some classic Louis Armstrong songs. But I think that's about it.
I'll give that to Jeff. He handles all that, and he does it quite well too.
Good.
Also, one last little bit of gotcha journalism here. Since I got you here and you're on tape, what are the plans next year for your CSI character?
NCIS. Are gonna see him?
NCIS. Is he going to come back?
It would be fantastic if he were to come back. I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh, definitely, everybody go check out this picture. James finally got it pulled up. And
see, doesn't that look like a clarinet right there?
That certainly does. I don't know what else it could be.
And the facial features on this child look a lot like Kid Rene, who we know played at this event. And then seeing his right hand, he's got something there. That sort of looks like the bell of a cornet, right?
It could definitely be.
And he's holding it by the top part with a mouthpiece up there somewhere.
And, everybody is holding... something.
They got American flags.
Okay.
I think they gave them away to the children there.
So maybe they're in a marching band. Maybe they're marching with their flags. Why don't you guys all go to James' Twitter feed and check this out and sound off your opinions on it. The more people who notice details, then the better leads we might get.
It would be great to crowdsource it and say.
Absolutely. Somebody points out something that had not been seen before.
Yeah. So here's what they did for the caption back in 1913, just Merry Christmas.
And then where was this found at?
I discovered this in the Times-Democrat newspaper, published in, I think, on December 26th, 1913, I want to say.
So you're just going through them, looking at the pictures?
I had known from reading another newspaper, one that's already been digitized, this one has not, that the band played there. And then I went to the library, to the city archives, where they have microfilm, and I looked up the Times-Democrat from that same day and found a story which identified Armstrong by name, as well as Kid Rene. They called him Henry Rainey instead of Rene. And then that picture is there in that same story. And it doesn't identify him in the caption, just says Merry Christmas. But to me, it was a fantastic.
Get on. They should have had better editors back then.
Yeah.
Come on, go. Everybody knows. Go find everybody's name. Make sure it's spelled right. Could have been saving James a lot of work here.
Yeah.
So, but you have been putting in the work then, obviously, finding all this.
Yeah, I've discovered a lot of stuff that has just kind of been out there for a long time, waiting to be discovered. And I think that there's a lot more, and I'm working on digging it up.
Well, the city of New Orleans will appreciate you after it's all said and done.
Yeah, great.
And NCIS next year, your character.
He's not coming back, I don't think.
He didn't die or anything?
He didn't die, but as far as I know, he is not a recurring character. It would be spectacular if he were.
But with the charisma that he showed and the fan response he had, the producers would be dumb.
It was very heroic, I will say that.
He looks pretty butch. All right, guys. Thank you very much, James. Get them kids off to soccer practice. Go Jesters.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's one you all can sing with us when the Saints go marching in.
Hey, Hunker Downcast listeners, we're in our quest to bring you hashtag weekly content. We're out here in front of the Half Moon Bar on magazine, what the fuck, Sophie Wright and St. Mary Streets. The New Orleans Saints have just lost to the Dallas Cowboys, and who fucking cares, right, Jeff?
I mean, well, we all care. I care. Do you care? You don't care?
I mean, I don't think it really matters. I don't think it's going to be a game that matters. Does it matter?
Everything matters, but also nothing matters. That's the paradox that we're living in these days. Like everything matters, therefore nothing matters.
Do you think
or vice versa? Nothing matters, therefore everything matters.
Will it affect our playoff / Super Bowl hopes in any way?
It will definitely affect the playoff scenario, as they like to say, but it won't affect our hopes. They can't take our hopes from us.
Right.
We have those.
Amen, brother. Amen. I can't. You're right, man. It's all we have is hope after a while,
Well, certainly. No, they're fine. They're fine. Like this needed to happen. Like people, I think most people are taking this well already. So I don't want to give anybody a lecture or anything like that, because it seems to me like everyone has already leapt to the conclusion that this needed to happen. That they went through this media blitz this week where, oh my God, they're one of the best teams in the league. Oh my God, we need to talk about Drew Brees as an MVP candidate. The national media, I'm saying.
Absolutely.
But and then they were setting up for something to either go very well or very poorly on this night, and it went kind of sideways. But it doesn't matter, and it doesn't change anything. They're 10-2. They won more games than they've lost, which is always a huge accomplishment for a Saints team. They are gonna win the division probably. They go to Tampa next week. They can,
which you have some concerns about.
You know what? I was about to say something that was positive, but you're right. They always lose to Tampa late in the season. Somehow.
He mentioned something to me in the bar before we even started recording this about how he thinks we're probably going to lose that game. But now he's positive, Jeff. So let's keep this going.
I forgot about that.
He's hopeful, Jeff.
I'm drinking, so I forgot about that. Yeah. So they. It's fine. It's fine, everybody.
Hope has not been damaged in any way. So we started the season, we had hope. We lost the first game, the Tom Benson funeral game. We lost hope.
That's good that they lost.
Then slowly but surely we've been rebuilding hope, and we haven't lost hope by any means.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay, sure. They're still going to be in the playoffs. It's probably it's better. It's better that I felt like the pressure was starting to build on everyone to I don't know, expect too much or to be too intense if things went the wrong way, and this is kind of a check on that.
Lots of times teams like that run out of gas in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And
This is an opportunity to kind of not feel too bad, like to understand that, it's not always going to be great, and to also, like, I don't know, just chill. Just chill.
you got to pick your spot to lose. Like the New England Patriots they picked their spot to lose in the second half of the Super Bowl after an undefeated season. So it's probably good that we pick our spots early so we can go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, if that's the way you want to see it, sure. But also, like, they have to play 2 games against Carolina in the next couple weeks. So,
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
No, but that's drama, right? That's more like, it makes things more interesting. So you get to do that, and you get to have your money's worth for the tickets that you may or may not have bought for the next few weeks of the season. It's not like they.
Is that what this is all about? Whether the season ticket holders get to see a good gladiator type battle?
Sure,
or?
it's all about that.
It's the hope of the city, I think. About Saints fans, what this city needs right now is something to unite them again, one more time.
Oh, that's bullshit.
There's a lot of Airbnb. There's a lot of gentrification.
Really, is
that
that
nobody really even knows what New Orleans is anymore? It's starting to get homogenized. But you know what?
So let's unite the unite the homogeneity.
Maybe the Bywater hipsters. And the snooty uptowners and the scrappy West Bankers.
None of this makes sense, Varg.
They can all come together and unite underneath the Saints.
Oh, also, I would like to point out the critical takeaway from the game that people are going to overlook. During the first half of this game, the Cowboys scored 13 points and the Saints scored 0 points. During the second half of this game, the Saints scored 10 points and the Cowboys scored 0 points. And as far as I can identify, there's only one crucial difference between the first half and the second half, and that is that you wore the cowboy boots in the first half. No, you did not wear the cowboy. See, I'm drunk.
I took them off in the first half and discovered that was probably a bad idea, and I put them on in the second half, and I don't believe in any of that shit, but tonight...
So, like... If you just keep the fucking cowboy boots on for the rest of the season, I think everything's going to be okay.
Wait, is that what I have to do? Okay,
it's a thought. It's a thought.
I'm definitely going to do that.
All right.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Who dat? No. Queens of the Stone Age hoodie didn't give me a hoodie. Yeah,
nobody cares.
A guy with a Queens of the Stone Age hoodie did not give me a hoodat. But I bet if we won the Super Bowl, that fucking hipster fucker right now,
he's gonna come give you a fucking hug.
He would, yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody loves that type of shit.
Gonna be licking those cowboy boots at some point.
It's almost like the gentrification of New Orleans is the second Katrina.
You guys shut this down.
Come on, man.
No, it's done.
No, this is content, man.
Hey, no, it's great content.
Tim and them want this.
It's fun.
We're gonna get some contribution. We're gonna get some patrons out of this. What are you thinking in the playoffs? Dome field advantage.
Well, so that's the thing, right? So they have to at least keep their heads above water. The only team out there that's really got
a rising tide, if you will. Hunker down.
The only team that's really
keep your heads above water.
The only team that's really got the advantage on them right now is the Rams,
who we beat.
And yeah, so they can definitely go to LA and win the game in the playoffs if they have to. I'm not too worried about that. I am worried, but anyway, it's fine.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, let's just for the rest of the year, let's make sure that they won 10 games. That's amazing. People don't understand how amazing that is.
10-6 for sure.
It's fucking. It's unusual. These are unusual games. They're unusual years when they can win more games than they lose.
Well, we got this.
And it's been fun.
Yeah,
all right.
All right. Well, then, so we're gonna win the Super Bowl or not, Jeff?
Like I said, it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter. I don't want you to make a prediction because your predictions are historically pretty fucking bad.
Keep the boots on.
Oh, okay. I got it.
There you go.
I'm wearing them for the rest of the season.
All right. That's it. Let's get out of this.
We're out.